December of 2014, your council is supposed to hold its General Assembly because the last one that you held was in December of 2010. When you want to reflect on this period that you have been at the helm of this council as executive chairperson, because before you were the acting Secretary General and later on Secretary General, what do you think has been the achievements of the Youth Council for the past 2 to 3 years?
Well, thank you very much once again for inviting me. I think I would say that a lot of people, whenever we look at institutions like the National Youth Council, we like to emphasize the politics of an institution. But for me, what was very, very fundamental was that at the end of my term, we need to have created an institution that is fundamentally different from the previous one. We need to focus on the fundamentals of an organization, making sure that you have organizational systems in place, making sure that you have the right structure in place in terms of staff that is able to respond to the needs, making sure that we make the institution much more efficient. So those really for me were the priorities. It was building the institutions and not necessarily focusing on politics or focusing on individuals. And I think we have achieved that. I think that is really one of the milestones. But
you're saying it's a milestone, but some people would say you were too preoccupied with transforming the institution rather than delivering on the mandate, which amongst others calls for you to engender a spirit of national identity, a sense of patriotism, unity, self-respect, and in-depth awareness of social, economic, political, educational, and cultural prospects and adversities in the youth.
I think these things are linked. You need to understand that if your institution doesn't have the organizational capacity to be able to respond to these challenges, you will not be able to achieve your mandate. So the most important thing when one runs an organization is to be able to ensure that you have the systems, that you have the right people, and that you have the necessary funding in place to be able to achieve your objectives. Otherwise, it becomes a futile exercise. But on terms of that also, I think you would be wrong to suggest that we haven't been able to meet the mandate. I think we've been able to do new things. We've been able to say that from the previous way of doing things where the National Youth Council tried to focus on trying to do everything, whether it is HIV/AIDS awareness, whether it's national pride, what we're saying is that our emphasis should be on strengthening the youth organizations to be able to do programs for why they exist. For example, it makes no sense for the National Youth Council to compete in the space of NANSO, to compete in the space of Young Women Christian Association, to compete with Oshodi Njupa Regional Youth Forum. What we should be doing is to be able to strengthen them technically and financially to be able to execute their mandate, thereby bringing youth development directly to the people who require it.
Mm-hmm. You earlier on told us that one of your milestones is putting these structures in place. One of the critical positions that has been established in your Act of 2009 that was gazetted in 2012 is the position of a director for the council to head the administration of the council. That position remains unoccupied years on. And you are saying it's a milestone you have put...
the position is not unoccupied.
Who's there? It's an acting person who's there. It is not a substantive director. So that appears to me that, at least on that score, you have not been able to do that type of capacity and putting structures and people in the right places.
I don't think that's true at all. You must remember that
it's not true that you don't have a director?
No, it's not true that the position is unoccupied and that we have failed in terms of making sure that the position becomes occupied.
Is the position occupied substantively or by an acting arrangement?
There's an acting director in place,
yeah,
but it's very
not a lie that the position is not occupied.
Well, there's an acting director in place, but let me. It's very important that you understand. The act came into place in 2012. The board could not appoint a person substantially before that. In 2012, we started the process of recruiting a director. Now, unfortunately, there are many processes and other people that are involved in the appointment of the director. Within 3-4 months of us starting the process of appointing the director, we had already made recommendations. So those recommendations need attention.